I was at dinner in Santa Barbara, and Jimmy Butler and I was having dinner with Michael Jordan and a few people at the camp, and he had this dinner afterwards. And we were talking basketball, and Michael blew us away.
So my next guest is NBA master trainer Chris Johnson. I'm so happy to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Amazing, amazing. A little tired, but amazing.
Well, you've been going at it all day. Meetings after meetings after meetings. Do you ever take any time off?
Yeah, I did with COVID.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's probably the most time that I've had to where you could slow down and kind of revisit things and kind of relook at things and see how you want to attack it. Put a game plan together and then follow through. So outside of that, it's just steady grinding. You have players coming in, you have businesses that you're working with, you have people that you're working with, and different companies that you can use and advertise your business. So it's go 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 go.
Yeah, nonstop. So this pandemic, I know it hit a lot of us pretty hard, but it also benefited us in many ways. What were some of the biggest adjustments that you had to make?
I mean, just the unknowing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like at first, I was very resistant of like wanting to be on the floor with potential players because you got to wear masks, you wear gloves, that's different. But then you can adjust, and then as you become more educated about what COVID is, and what potential hazards it has, and then how you can protect yourself. Training with mask on has been a probably the most adjustment that I made during COVID from a business standpoint because it's really hard to hear you talk. It's like you're muffled,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's probably the biggest adjustment during COVID. And obviously, we've all experienced, the shopping and not being able to go out and being in LA. I really haven't been anywhere at all, and I'm always thinking about social distance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, a lot of people follow you, and I feel like I didn't really get to know you until I saw, Chris Johnson today,
Right.
training with all these NBA guys, but obviously it's a long journey to get to that point, and I want to hear your story. Where did this all start for you?
Well, I'm originally from Texas, and I've been in basketball my whole life, and and being a point guard, being a football player, being a wide receiver, quarterback. I've always been in like leadership positions from athletically and being in sports has just been a part of my life. And having the opportunity to play collegiate basketball, to be able to turn that into being a collegiate coach, being a high school head coach, being an NBA player development, NBA G League coach, um, you gain so much knowledge and you learn so much from people and not just coaches, players, and the players that you play with. So, you know, being a teacher is something that, I've always felt like would be in my path, but developing players is to me teaching. So I'm always in the classroom like a professor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want to be that master teacher. You want to be that person that can teach in three different type of ways. And so, just leading to where I am, I've had the ability to be on the team side and to be in a position of leadership. And then when you look at teams, you're always trying to develop, the people that are part of the team. You're always trying to encourage. And so along my journey, also being a speaker for Nike and speaking at clinics and development clinics, offensive and defensive strategies allow you to formulate and communicate and build a system that you believe in That doesn't necessarily like mean my system is better than anybody else's system. It just means that I perfected my way of teaching. And so, you have all these types of teachers, especially in the game of basketball, that people would think you're competitive against each other, but someone connects differently than the next person. So it's like if you and I both were Spanish teachers,
Mhm.
people wouldn't even look at us as being competitors
Mhm.
because we have Spanish teaching on it. But the way I communicate and teach in Spanish will be just a little bit different than yours, and that's what makes us unique. So
Mhm.
my journey has been really good, and the more I learn from players, the more I ask questions, the better teacher I become in this game. So just giving back and doing something you love every day.
What are some of the biggest things that you've learned from these players? Because as a leadership, you're a leader yourself, as a coach, trainer, basically a teacher. You're doing a lot of the teaching here. But I know you've probably, like you said, learned a lot from these players. So what are some of the biggest things
Yeah.
you've learned?
Um, Work ethic,
Mhm.
you know, I think, dealing with players at a very high level, some people um, forget that they're human and they make mistakes. And so that teaches you humility. So for me, seeing some of the players that are on the outside looked at as, these huge public figures, for me to see the humility of them on a day-to-day basis, like being on time. Like these are things that you don't have to like give a lot of effort to, but it's super important. Being on time, showing up ready to learn, being an open-minded, like very curious about learning as much as they can from you as if they're trying to learn from everybody in the room, right? So positive energy and always being truthful. Like if you see it and it ain't right, and if you had a player that wasn't that great, you would call them out on it. You call them out even if they're that great. You hold them accountable, and that's why people will come and develop with you because they're gonna get the truth. They want to be told the truth so that they can improve at a craft that we all love.
Mhm. No, I love that. Those are definitely good qualities and things to learn from these guys for sure.
Yeah.
So, how did you start? I know you were in basketball for a long time. How did you really start maintaining those friendships, those connections, relationships? Like, how did it all like really start to take off for you?
You know what? I can't even lie. I think relationships come natural to some people.
Hmm.
Like with my friends, when I say friends, like people I grew up with, I was always a person that they would call, whenever they needed advice. If it was like real serious questions, if it was just my work ethic, some people can't say it like I can, but I worked the same way I work now when I was at 13 years old. I was just as focused. I just wasn't good enough to be an NBA player. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So just because you're a great teacher, don't mean you have to be a great basketball player. Now I played at a very high level. That's not that's not important. It's still another level to everything.
Hmm.
And the 1% athletes that I deal with are 1% for a reason.
Hmm.
they're, yeah, they're really good. So
Hmm.
my work ethic and determination to be the best person I can be has allowed people to trust me and to build relationships. When you look at a business, you could be just a business, or you could be a place and a culture that people want to be a part of. And so, what I've tried to build, not only from a social media standpoint, but from a realistic and a real life standpoint, is real relationships.
Hmm.
Like when you and I talk, I'm always encouraging, I'm pushing you. That's why, like, I'm like, yo, I got you. And
Hmm.
I've been grinding, but your persistence, your work ethic, your commitment to do something over a long period of time is something that people are amazed about. I'm amazed. I'm like, okay, she's being consistent. And that's really hard to do, right?
Hmm.
In anything. Is just to be steady and do it once your show and everything blows up, people are gonna wonder how you got there, and you're just gonna point back to your work ethic, your commitment, your persistency, and that's why I think the relationships that I build with the people that are gonna be watching it, and with the people that I work with and train in the NBA, they're gonna know that this is me. I'm organic, and that's why you build a proper relationship, which allow you to be a master teacher.
I love that. Well, and also thank you for the kind words. I really do appreciate that. It's been a long time coming, that's for sure. But work ethic is something that's always just come natural to me too. Because if you really love
Right,
what you do, it's not even work. So it's like when I schedule these interviews and I know I have to edit for hours and I know I have to put
right,
something together. To me, I'm just like, I don't mind doing that. Like
right,
I feel when you get to a certain point where you're doing what you love, it's like you'd almost do it for free. It's like to that point where you just love it so much that you literally don't care about. I mean, you care about the end result. I mean, you know you're going to get there, but it's just
right.
one of those things where you're not constantly worried about it because you know, like, I'm meant to do this. This is my purpose.
I asked a question to my audience on Instagram. Would you be doing what you're doing if you didn't get paid?
Mm.
And it's curious because then it make you reflect and look back and say, like, yeah, I would be doing that. I would be impacting people's lives. You would be, in the fight for the community and helping the youth, and that's what I'm going to do. So it didn't. So when you do get a reward and get paid for it, and be able to live a good life and have a lifestyle for doing what you do naturally,
Mhm.
is important. And so being a positive person and positive thinking and mental health is something that I've been in tune with. Along my process, a lot of people don't know this, but when I decided to go back into coaching, I took a graduate assistant position and I got my master's degree. And so my is in counseling. I've had it, I got it in 2002, so that's 18 years. That show you how old I am, right? So
I can't tell.
nah, I'm eating healthy. So, but
Always
no,
works.
so the counseling part was important to me then because I was so curious about why people respond the way they do emotionally.
Mhm.
And so I was able to write a dissertation over emotional intelligence of minority student athletes. Yeah, I put a whole survey together. I went through our whole athletic department, and looked for the minorities. Minority meaning women, men of color, just like those ethnic groups, and just trying to see what their emotional intelligence is. And so when you look at that, and you look at athletics, you look at body language, and you look at, if people wear it on their shoulders, sometimes they don't even realize that it's there because of their emotional intelligence. Emotion goes up, it goes down, it can change in seconds, it can change in minutes.
Mhm.
And so once you become intelligent about it, especially being a minority student athlete myself, you start to understand more and you underreact versus overreact.
Mhm. Well, I love that because I think those two things go hand in hand with being a leader, a teacher, a coach, is understanding the guys that you work with. Because you're dealing with multiple personalities and they might not necessarily have an ego when they're with you, but I mean, let's face it, these are big, powerful men who are under the spotlight 24/7 who tend to, I don't want to say they think that they know everything, but when they're a star walking in the gym, it might be a little hard for them to hear you, come at them a certain way, and then you have to kind of adjust as you go. So is that something that you had to learn over time with certain players? Like, okay, I need to teach him this way. I need to teach him that way. Was that something that took time for you?
That's brilliant. Yeah, I think everybody's different.
Mhm.
So my approach with a particular person can't be the same approach with the other person, even though I'm bringing the same information. I can vouch for the players that are superstars in the basketball league. It's not that they're not open to receive information. A lot of times, you know exactly who you can lean on. And so the way you become who you are is you have to quiet the noise. So a lot of times it's not that they're stubborn or inhumane, not listening. Is that they built a circle. And if you look at some of the most successful people in earth, whether it's sports or business, they learn how to quiet the noise around them and build what I call a dream team. So you have a dream team, which is dream keepers, and then you have the other side, which is dream stealers. So you have to know the difference between the two, right? So me being a master trainer, I'm a dream keeper. So my job is to keep your dream alive and watch you become the most successful person that you can become and celebrate with you, right? Dream stealers do the exact opposite. They steal your dream right before you. And sometimes a dream stealer could be right next to you as you would consider a confidant or somebody that's a friend. So you have to be very careful who's in your circle and how you build it. And that allows you to build the confidence that you need to be the best player in the world or the best person in the world. So I did learn that. I did. Because I was like, okay, I'll give you a story. This was Michael Jordan's 50th birthday party in Houston, Texas. And Jordan has these big parties. And myself, with my work ethic, I decided I was going to be in the gym training one of my clients. And I would shower, get clean at the gym, and head to the party. And it's in Houston, Texas, where I'm from. And one of my clients was like, I got you. I'm going to get you in. And I was like, how are you going to see me? He said, trust me, I'm going to see you. So I train, I drive over. This is Michael's 50th party. It's going crazy. It's so packed outside. I text him and say, hey, I'm outside, but I don't know if you're going to be able to see me. He walked to the door in a crowd of maybe like 500, 600 people and pointed right at me. I didn't raise my hand. I didn't do anything. He found me. And when it always made me curious, how did he see me in a crowd of many people? And him being a superstar, I realized that superstars train their eyes to see the people that they know. That's a skill. So like when you surround yourself, it's not that you are not open to hearing, adjustments and how to grow from the people that you're close to. But, when you're at the highest level, you train to see the people that you know. So it don't matter if that person is in a group of thousands, you're going to see them and block out everything else, which a lot of people don't know that those top athletes have that gift. And that's a gift because he found me in a crowd. And then from there, my brain being curious, how did he find me? And he told me, he was like, I was only looking for you. I was focused and he could see me. I thought that was amazing. He was a superstar player. So he has
Who? I gotta know who.
No.
I gotta know who.
No.
Come
But
on.
that's an extreme focus though, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that because my friend was really good. She loved Kobe. She only met him a couple times, but he had that gift where if he met you one time, that's it. If he had respect for you, he would always come up to you, say hi, hey, what's up, nod his head, whatever, acknowledge you. I know LeBron has that same kind of energy too. He can only meet you once, and even if you don't think he knows you, like he does.
He knows you.
He knows you. If you're in the industry, he knows you. Like all these superstars, they have this like, I don't know what it is, because like for me, I try to remember names and I can maybe remember faces, but I don't know how they do it because they're meeting like thousands of people weekly.
I was surprised. I was at dinner. I was at dinner in Santa Barbara, and Jimmy Butler and I was having dinner with Michael Jordan and a few people at the camp, and he had this dinner afterwards. And we were talking basketball, and Michael blew us away because he knew players in the G League. He knew players and people that we were like, wow. And he was like, yeah, he was calling them by their name, their height. He was like, man, I think he's an amazing player. And it just blew me away because I was like, that cat's in the G League. And he knew it like that. And that's the same in like, I've learned that about like people that are, they build themselves up because everybody's human. So nobody's born into like being like a 1% type of person.
Mm-hmm.
But I love studying people that are great at their craft. It doesn't have nothing to do with money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're a great yoga instructor and you're able to grab the attention of like the people that are paying to come see you and you're able to heal them, that's what I'm into. I want to know how did this golfer develop the mentality to be able to stay focused on a golf range where the target is 300 plus feet away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going through your head? Because in basketball, some of our better shooters are all golfers. J.R. Smith, Steph Curry,
Mm-hmm.
Clay. You start looking at guys like Michael Jordan being one of the best scorers in the game. He played golf all the time. And so the more that I started to really look at guys that actually play golf, like Ray Allen,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what's the correlation with being able to shoot and to laser your focus and then be able to hit a golf ball. Like they're really good. Like Steph is a really good golfer.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these guys that I've learned that play golf, like Chris Paul, he's a golfer. They won't consider Chris a shooter, but Chris is one of the best shooters around. You know, he can really shoot the ball. He's a good golfer, you know. So it's amazing if you start to look at guys at golf,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just something that I've been studying for like 2 years, and I'm trying to figure it out because it's going to make me a better shooting coach. It's going to make me a better teacher if I can take that correlation of why these guys, what does golf make tick in the brain to make these guys really good shooters in this sport that's counter opposite?
I never thought about that. It's like, I wonder if they have any studies on that, but it would make sense because, like you said, you're hitting the ball 300 feet away from the target. And I guess you can compare it a little bit to basketball because I don't think people realize how hard it is to hit threes like the way Steph Curry does on a consistent basis. Like, that's tough.
Is I see it hand to hand every day.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it for years. And so people don't realize how tough that is.
Mm-hmm.
And people would compare like the bigger guys being strong enough to shoot the ball. But it's something. And when I find out, I'm gonna write a book on it. Because it's something that in golf to hit a small ball with a club and you use the target of the pole to be able to gauge it and still put it in the basket when the basket is you put two basketballs in it
Mm-hmm.
and it's a bigger target. And that's why they shoot so well.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna figure it out.
It makes
And
sense. It's almost like I want them to have like, they need to do a study where they actually put like the little things on your head and like study the actual brain movement as you're doing it. And then the same thing with basketball.
I have to figure it out.
That's going to be the
I
next
really
sports science episode on ESPN. I don't know. Did they get
that
rid of that?
I don't know, but
I love that. I
that
love sports science.
if anybody listening when they're listening, they're gonna think about that comparison. But that's something I've been thinking about for years. So
That's
I
really
watch it.
interesting.
I'm studying. Yeah, it's super interesting.
Do you tell some of your guys that you're working with who maybe aren't at that level yet, who can be, to maybe take on golfing?
Yeah. So like not only take on golfing, but in the middle of a session with developing, our conversations are not just basketball. The greatest people in their area, they study other great people.
Mm-hmm.
So like that golf comparison, when I'm working with a particular player, like right now I'm working with like 3 players on becoming better shooters. We improve mechanically, but I think a lot of it's also mental. And so I'm reading a book that's really good that says golf is not a perfect game. And when you think about basketball, we're taught that if I miss a shot, I get bad body language, emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of dictate, like, but if you watch guys like that, Dane, watch these guys shoot. They never feel like they're gonna miss a shot. Kobe Bryant, people are like, well, wow, how does he put up 25 shots? Well, he subconsciously check out. He's like every shot is. So if you can figure that out, you can really improve a player quicker from a mental standpoint than a physical standpoint. So that's what I'm looking. That's more of me. I'm trying to figure that out from here up because that's what makes LeBron special.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes Rondo special. These are guys I work with. These are guys that are special. It's the way they see the game and the way they think.
So those are two guys, like you just said, they are really special. And I don't think people give them enough credit for their intelligence, their IQ for the game. I mean, especially a guy like Rondo, like he doesn't get enough credit at all. I mean, he's ridiculous. Like he's one of those guys, just like some of the passes that he makes, I'm just like, how did you even see that guy there? He's so crafty with it. But have you talked with them at all about what they do to enhance that emotional intelligence?
I mean, you have those questions. You're like a guy like Rondo, right? Highly intelligent, a super student of the game. He's studying everything. I know we talk basketball. Without giving out a secret, he's studying tendencies, movement, coaches' tendencies, situation. Like for him to be a champion and for him to play at the level that he plays at is mental. And his mental is a warrior. It's like he's so cerebral and so smart. So when he's throwing those passes, he can see it 3 or 4 plays ahead. It's like, when people say chess is a good analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Dominoes. Some players play dominoes. And there's just different triggers that trigger the brain to help you become that, really good player. And I think with the new age kids, they play more virtual games and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would highly encourage them. And the guys that, around me, I encourage them to play card games or play dominoes, play chess, ping pong. Like in my facility right now, we have a ping pong table and we're on a ping pong tournament. And I'm not telling you we're getting beat real bad, but it's coming off the basketball court and you playing ping pong.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like that can trigger your brain that can really make you really sharp in another sport. So it's not just your sport. You can take other sports like boxing. I've been studying Roy Jones Jr. Not Roy Jones Jr. and Floyd Mayweather. I was studying because both of them was trained by their father, and no matter how old their fathers got, they were able to still train it. And think about how fast Floyd Mayweather hands it. How is his father able to keep up with his hand speed and keep him to where he's the best fighter in the world?
Mm-hmm.
It's here. It's here. And his triggers. So it's bigger than training. Mm-hmm. These people are special for a reason, and I think it's the eliteness of the brain. Because everybody has big bodies, long limbs, speed, fast. Mm-hmm. The separation is in the brain.
Well, we do see a lot of guys like a Damian Lillard. He does go boxing a lot too, especially in the off season. I'm trying to think. I have seen a lot of other players take on that sport as well. And it's interesting you mentioned that you like to step outside of the court and have them focus on other things. Like I would have never thought that'd be a training strategy. Like most guys, it's like you hear, okay, you're lifting, cardio, you're on the court, you're taking shots, you're getting your therapy, cryo, whatever you do, but we're never hearing ping pong or golf or boxing or just other sports to help, enhance that sharpness.
Yeah. Like if you and I were playing chess and you were very good and I'm okay, you're going to be able to control the board.
Mm-hmm.
You can control the game. You can manipulate the game, especially if you're like 2 steps ahead. So playoff basketball that you're watching right now in the bubble, even for the naked eye, they can't see the true detail and the beauty of the game of how intelligent these players are because they move so gracefully,
Mm-hmm.
they move so fast. It's nothing but strategic pieces. It's all chess. So when you look at working with the best players in the world, you have to offer more than just teaching them a particular move or particular movement to make them better performance. If you want to take guys to become peak performance, they're peak. That's why, like in the finals right now, in the East, I have like 3 or 4 players that I work with and spend years with. Right. In the West, it's the same thing, and I credit a lot of that to like their mental development. And so, that just me being in the player development side and being a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
mental development is huge. And so I love competing, but you don't always have to compete physically.
Mm-hmm.
You can compete mentally, and it just helps your brain trigger and it helps your senses move really fast. Like artists, like Jay-Z, if you ever studied the way he puts together his rhymes and his lyrics, the way he mentioned it is that he does it backwards. So he'll say a line, then say another line, but go back and repeat the first line to the second line, and then come up with the third line and start over. And before you know it, he didn't wrote a complete song
Wow.
without ever touching a pen. He found a way to create off of his gift. That's the same way in sports. Like,
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I also read something a while ago. Rondo can beat anyone in Connect Four because he knows like what you're gonna do, and he already knows where he's gonna get the four, like before the game even starts.
you know that you say that. Man, I took some beatings in Connect Four from Jimmy Butler. He his
Really,
Yeah, he's really sharp. He can lock in. The Connect Four game is intense.
it
It,
is. I'm not very
yeah,
good. I
yeah,
don't think ahead. I don't have that same kind of mind when it comes to like playing games. It's more so
right.
like my craft's different. I can like predict who I will interview because I manifest it, I make it happen. So it's a mental thing. So it's a little different. But when it comes to games, count me out. I'm not
I
good.
think you tapped into it though. You just said it. I think you tapped into it. I think you just have to take a step back and look at it differently because
Mm,
I think you tapped into it. The way you can win in games is first you got to understand the rules. So you got to be curious about how to manipulate things.
mhm.
So people like I guarantee you in your next interview because you're doing that you're another interview when you get the top guy, ask them like competitive questions about type of game you play. And some play gaming systems,
Mhm.
but if you really dig deeper into what they're doing, it's competitive. It's just their competitive nature
Mhm.
to compete. If you walk by a foosball table and you're like, man, I'm better than you, and all of a sudden you're foosballing, or you playing, or you bowling.
Mhm.
You know, it could be anything. You could be thumping quarters and marbles. It just when I grew up, it's so competitive in so many ways that you're always competing. And so I guarantee you among the football teams, the baseball teams, basketball teams, when you look at the dynamic, the teams that are always competing, maybe it's for push-ups, maybe it's for free throws,
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I do, and I got a little bit more time in my facility, in my culture, we have shooting boards. So I came up with about 25, maybe 30 competitive shooting games that makes you have to compete every time. So that pushes my guys every day to outdo what they did the day before. And they're competing against other players that they really never come in contact with to see because their names are on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you use that and create a competitive culture
Mm-hmm.
without people even knowing that they're being competitive. You're raising the level of competition. So I just gave you a little gem right
I love that because it's also, like you said, it's not only raising the bar when it comes to competing, but they're also having fun. I feel
there.
like sometimes too, it's like, some coaches or trainers, it can be the same repetitive thing over and over again. And when you're working now with some of these younger guys who are up and coming, their attention spans, I feel like, are a little shorter. So if you can
Right.
implement games and implement ways for them to get better that way, I definitely think that's a great idea. And do you notice a difference from when you started training years ago to the players now?
For sure. For sure. Players now are exposed to more information about the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether you decide to use that information is up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Social media websites have made it easier and to get access to information. Um, when I first started, you know, it was really hard to get information. They were done through uh, maybe ebooks or pamphlets. We would have these big coaching conventions to where you go in and you go listen to a particular coach that's teaching a particular style,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I learned along the way in my career is when coaches are working for a particular organization or company or AAU team for a long time and they don't get to see other programs, they only know what they know.
Mm-hmm.
So it limits your growth unless you're doing a lot of studying as a student.
True.
So me being my own entity in business, I get information from this guy, from this guy, from this organization, from that player, from that GM, that head coach, that high school coach, that college coach, that player over there. I may talk to 7 different all stars and have 7 different workouts. You're retaining so much information. So the separator between me and people that want to like be in my position is that my retention of information. Like you can't give me information or not come into a session with me and me not pick your brain.
Mm.
Like I want to know as much as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So if I take a little bit of Chris, I take a little bit of Rondo, take a little bit of this guy, a little bit of that guy, a little bit of D Wade, a little bit of this guy, and you start having really intelligent conversations where you're not afraid to ask questions. So like when I'm on the floor, I'm not afraid to be wrong or I'm not afraid not to know.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me, it separates me because I can compete mentally with anybody in the world basketball wise
Mm-hmm.
because I'm always learning. So I learn from all like the new trainers coming in. I love watching them. They're so creative. They have creative juices. You got the guys that's been in the game for a little bit and they're kind of set in their ways of development. I study them too,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just all a part of studying the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So you really appreciate how different teachers teach the game. So versus looking at them and showing like what they not doing right, because I've been in the game a long time, I've been around a lot of people, I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of looking at it from like, oh, he don't do that the way I do it, you look at it and say, wow, that's creative. I could take that and make it my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at it from that perspective and the growth. And so that's super important for me. And a lot of people don't know that about me, but that's being a student of the game. So
Mhm.
you learn from all trainers, regardless if they're working with second grade girls, third grade boys. Like it don't matter. If you're a really good teacher, your title doesn't matter.
That's true. I mean, I apply it to what I do too. I study other reporters, not as much
Yeah.
anymore, but growing up, I studied reporters. I studied players in terms of how they dealt with media, what they liked, disliked, how they handle certain questions, how they handle, and I look at the body language too. Like I can tell now, like a player is fed up with a question, or he hates
Right.
one of these reporters or an analyst or a commentator, and then I figure out, why does he not like them? What can I do to not be like that person? What can I do
Right.
to ask the question better or more different to where it doesn't offend the athlete? Because that's another thing too, is like, you got to be careful with your tone, your delivery. And that's something over time that I had to learn. And I get asked the question all the time, like, how do you come up with your questions? Or how do you come up with this and with that? And it's just over time of repetition, of
Yeah.
studying,
Studying.
and just also finding something that you can connect with the person you're talking to. So
Right.
I do my studying like that as well.
That's dope. I mean, it's got to be tough, to be able to ask uh, great questions, but tough questions, and
Hmm.
then questions that people want to know. And I think that's interesting because I look at different types of reporters and or people that want to tell other people's stories, right? So when you look at it, you can look at it from different ways. You can really expose something that people don't know about that person. Like it can be good, it can be positive, or it can be in a negative way, or you can bring positive light to something that they were doing, or you can bring the truth. Like they went through a moment. Like when you watch people, like after the game, if it was a tough game,
Hmm.
and you want to get the authentic answer, like, hey, how was that in that moment? And the player said that was really tough, and people are like, what? Yeah, like that was not easy. That was a tough win for us.
Hmm.
We gave max. Like those are questions that you really want to authentically get, and that's how I look at different people that get opportunities to connect with any player after any game of competition. You want to see if they can pick the brain of that player. Like that's what, yeah,
It gets hard because, for example, like Michael Porter Jr. the other day, he answered a question honestly and authentically to who he is, whether or not people thought it was breaking moral code with the team and he should have talked with his teammates and his coach first. As reporters, we want the truth. We want
what
honesty.
question was it?
he they were asked, he asked, like, what you guys could have done better to close the gap. I think they lost by like what, like 20 points. And
Uh-huh.
he said, they were writing up all these plays for Jamal and Jokic, and there wasn't enough ball movement. And yeah, like those are great players, but like we need to, in order to win, we need to all be more involved. And we saw last night's game; they were all involved, and MPJ made a lot of key plays on both ends of the floor to end
So
up
did people? So
winning that game.
what were the comments like? Were they saying that he sold out his teammates? Did he? What was the comment?
It was
Because
a, it
if
was a
that
mix. It was a
it was a mix,
mix. Yeah.
right?
So
And
even the
those
coach,
comments, even the coach made a statement about it.
kind of said, it should have been kept in house. And I know Damian, he went off too on Twitter saying, "Wow, like we don't do that. Like you're a rookie. Stay in your lane," sort of thing. That's not something you need to give to the media. But I looked at it from both angles. So I try to
Mhm.
play devil's advocate, where I was like, well, we want the truth, we want honesty, but at the end of the day, probably should have kept it in house. But there was truth to what he was saying. So it wasn't like he was
Right.
saying some outlandish thing. Like it was truthful.
Nah, he pretty talented. So like he probably saying, "You guys better watch out. I'm right on your heels. Like I need that rock."
Yeah. Something like that. I mean, but there's also been situations with me when I interviewed James Harden last year. There was a segment on the Jump with Kobe and Tracy McGrady talking with Rachel Nichols. and they were asked about, James Harden and if the Rockets were going to be able to win with the way he's playing. And Kobe said, no, they're not going to be able to win with him being so ball dominant. So I asked him post game about those comments, and that was really hard. Like my heart was pounding, and I was so hot because I was like, damn, like I know this is a question like that has to be asked. Because I knew like, yeah, it was gonna get picked up by other stations, and I knew
What
that.
was James' audit? What was James' answer?
So he said, Kobe's right. Kobe's 100% right. Like I can't win on my own. Like I need to, it makes it hard though that Chris Paul's been hurt. So I do have to pick up the slack and play more and be more aggressive and dominant. But it was kind of one of those things, I got a lot of hate on Twitter and Instagram after it where they were like, oh, you didn't tell him, the full quote. You tried to make him look bad, whatever. And so later that night, I'm overthinking. I'm like, oh my God, maybe it was a bad question. Oh my God. So I saw him later that night out at the bowling alley, and I just walked up to him and I go, hey, he's like, oh, he's like, you're the reporter. I'm like, yeah. I got a lot of backlash for the question I asked you. And like, I hope like I didn't offend you in any way or like upset you. He goes, no, he's like, you were just doing your job. He's like, I respect you for asking that question. Like, it was a good question, needed to be asked, but me and Kobe talk all the time. So it wasn't like I didn't know that already. So that's another thing too, is when fans are like, oh,
That
whatever.
that made Kobe different because I can see Kobe telling him like, "Yo, bro, you can't be as successful as you need to be if you're gonna play the way you're playing. You're gonna have to win with your teammates." Because Kobe learned that. Like those guys, he's a champion.
Yep.
He learned that even winning with Shaq, and then him and Shaq pardoned, and then he got with a group of guys that was his group. He still had to rely on his team. Basketball is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
So even, when you're really special, like James is really an amazing scorer, you still gotta have teammates that can do their role and do it very well. And that what makes James' job a lot easier, and he wouldn't have to put out so much energy and effort. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
It was tough, but after he said, nah, you're good, you're fine. Like, I wasn't, at that point, I'm like, screw what the fans think. Like, I don't care. I asked a great question that needed to be asked. But how much time do you have left? Because I don't want to take up too much more.
No, I'm about ready because I was just checking.
Okay, so you're good right now? You have like 5 more minutes, or?
Yeah, I got like 5, probably about 3.
3 minutes. Okay, so I guess we could just do one more question then. Who has made the biggest impact on your life? It could be a mentor, it could be a player, someone who you've turned to, who's kind of helped your growth and development. And then what is the purpose that or impact you want to have on the world?
Oh, okay. Like in the sports game, I have several mentors from when I was playing, really from youth. My Uncle Rice was a huge impact on my life. My high school coach, my college coach. Um, both of my college coaches had super impacts on me about how you teach the game. In my professional life, um, I have some really close friends that are in the game, like they're like assistants or they're like head associates or head coaches in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And, being able to pick their brain and navigate the industry has been truly inspirational for me. And, you can't do anything in this world by yourself. It takes for you to connect with people, to gain information, to not pose as a threat because you want to know more. Because some people think people that they want to learn and they want to be involved and they volunteer their time that they want something else. No, they probably just want to understand the industry better. And so those people gave me an opportunity to understand the industry. And now that I understand the industry and I'm in the industry, my job is to reach back and to give back to those up and coming people that are inspired to be where I am because they're going to replace me. Like nothing is etched in stone. Nothing is like I'm not going to be in my position. I'm going to grow. going to transcend into my new elements. That's why I own business. And that's why, I'm going to open Just Therapy, where I'm working strictly with the mental side and not even on court. So helping people grow and those are things. So the thing that I want to give back to the world and is I want to be a positive impact in anyone's life that I come in contact with, whether that's a positive word, whether that's giving them the shirt off my back, whether you can see it or not, whether that's um, sending them quotes, sending them a text message, calling them. I want to help navigate and be a GPS for as many people as I possibly can. People trust GPS. They just put the address in and they follow GPS.
Mm-hmm.
They don't question it. And the purpose of the GPS is to get you to point A to point B the quickest. So without a GPS, you may take a few off roads. You may have a few, lights, stop signs. It may take you 2 hours to get there, but you still get there. But when you got a GPS, it may take you 20 minutes. So I want to be that. That's my impact on the people, that everybody I come in contact with, I help keep their dream alive.
Well, I love that. I love that. I mean, and I know that's what you've been doing. I love watching your stuff. I know a lot of people look up to what you do. So I just want to congratulate you on all the success you have so far. I look forward to watching more, and I really appreciate having you on here today.
Thank you so much. And I love what you're doing. I mean, you're grinding, and like today was amazing. I've been watching all of your other interviews and podcasts. It's keep killing it.
Thank you.
Keep killing it. And you keep doing it. You keep doing it. And when you look up, you'll be where you need to be.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow me on social media at Ashley Neville. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for weekly interviews.